So good afternoon. We are 5 minutes behind schedule, but this is because there is so much interest in enlargement that we have to fill this room. But anyway, I spoke briefly to Gert-Jan Koopman. He's so happy to see that there is still so much interest in enlargement. So that's good to see, because we know it's high on the agenda of this commission. After 12 years, 13 years, it's about time, let's say, that we have an enlargement agenda again. And I think if you see, as I said, the interest in this debate, it shows that we need to move on with enlargement. And we know, let's say, the Commission said it, or this Commission said it, let's say, in the beginning of the new mandate, that we'll have to reconsider it. And we have some representatives of these countries which are in the first league present. So again, let me welcome you, ambassadors. Gert-Jan Koopman and Tina will soon take over as a moderator for this debate. It's fantastic to have such a lineup, let's say, to have the Deputy Ambassador of Ukraine, Ambassador of Moldova, and then the ambassadors of Montenegro, Kosovo, and Albania. Fantastic, let's say, that we have you all present. So I will not speak for too long, but just say that SEPS has always been on the forefront of enlargement, even in the 90s already, let's say, when we spoke about the big enlargement, let's say, at that time. But also, I mean, around that period, we already had a Western Balkans newsletter, which we circulated at that time by email to more than 5,000, 6,000 addresses. We're still involved in also Horizon programs. This is done in the context of a Horizon program. You see it on this screen, let's say, where we're also looking at the Western Balkans and then the progress with enlargement. But also on the other three or two, I mean, at the moment, I mean, Tina can speak about Georgia, about her country, briefly, but if you speak about Ukraine and Moldova, we've done a lot of work in the context of what we call the DCFTAs, the Deep and Comprehensive Free Trade Agreements, on which we published many papers. You can still find them on our website, on the preparation for this free trade agreement, this special one, before there was talk about enlargement at the time. And of course, and then the war hit, and now we are in a special situation. Anyway, we are happy to have this debate as well. Let's say, know that Zelensky is in town. Let's say we have a European Council, a very busy week for Europe as well, a lot on the agenda and a lot to discuss. But without this further words, I pass the floor to Tina, who will moderate the debate. And anyway, she will explain a bit how we will do, but there will certainly be time for questions at the end. So again, welcome. Welcome on behalf of SEPS, and happy to see so many faces for this debate. Tina.
Thank you so much, Karel. Well, shall we greet our CEO, first of all, for his introductory remarks? Shall we put our hands together? Well, I'm very glad to see such a full room. I didn't expect anything else, but really this room cannot get any fuller. Just to add here that because we received more than 250 registrations, we also opened the event to the online audience. So the event is live streamed on SEP's YouTube channel, and we will try and collect the questions also for the online audience. My name is Tina Ahulediani. I'm research fellow here at the Center for European Policy Studies, and it's my absolute pleasure to moderate this discussion. Just to note, as Karel explained, this event is organized under REUNIR, which is Horizon Europe project led by SEPS. And we are honored that this event has also been chosen to part the form of Enlargement Forum, new initiative of Commissioner Marta Koss. The forum is scheduled just in a few weeks on 18th of November, if you would like to register and show up there. And this event serves as a satellite event in the run-up to the forum. Now, today we're going to discuss strategic priorities for enlargement policy ahead of, expecting enlargement reports to be unveiled by November 4th, we hope. And as strategic conversation really requires, we have a truly high-level panel with us. So please join me in welcoming Gert-Jan Koopman, Director General for Enlargement and Eastern Neighborhood at the European Commission. Ambassador Peter Markovic, Head of Mission of Montenegro to the EU. Ambassador Ferik Hoxha, Head of Mission of Albania to the EU. Ambassador Agron Bayrami, Head of the Mission of Kosovo in Brussels. And Ambassador Daniela Morari, Head of Mission of Moldova to the European Union. Oksana Diakon, Deputy Head of Mission of Ukraine to the EU. And we also have the note from the Ambassador of Ukraine to the EU that he's accompanying, obviously, President Zelensky in town, but we're very pleased to have Oksana with us. Right, so before we dive into the panel, I just wanted to briefly note how we are going to run this discussion. We have the full room, so I really want to make sure I collect the questions from the audience. So please prepare your questions as you follow our conversation. I will leave at least half an hour to collect the questions from the room at the last 30 minutes, right? Right, without further ado, let's take a quick snapshot where we stand on the enlargement before opening up these question rounds with our panelists. Very quickly, we have enlargement re-energized since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. We have geopolitics at the front of the play. We have, luckily, front-runners in Western Balkans, like Montenegro, like Albania. We have some others, not so much fast advancing in their negotiations. North Macedonia still not opening the first cluster, pending. Bosnia still without negotiating framework. Serbia facing massive democratic backsliding, protest almost a year now. Kosovo still a potential candidate country. So quite a lot of challenges and opportunities in the region. And on the eastern flank, Ukraine still in the full-scale war, but Ukraine and Moldova, advancing extremely fast on their European path. Well, in the meantime, Georgia, the country of my origin, we are facing authoritarian turn in Georgia. Most of opposition political leaders in jail, so are the journalists and activists. And European Council has halted countries' European integration as of last year. And not to forget Turkey, still an official candidate country, but obviously with the integration process stalled and frozen since 2018, that is. So quite a picture. And with this in mind, I want to come to you, Director General. Having this in mind, what are the strategic priorities for the enlargement policy to go forward?
Thank you very much, and good to be back here. Good to see so many people. So enlargement is alive, judging by the number of people at the SEPS event. And if we have 500 next year, then I'm sure we are on the right track, right? So you asked me about the priorities. Well, you gave a very good overview in a snapshot of where matters stand. And I think, if I may, it is worth recalling that the process is now accelerating again. We are seeing not just a lot of action in the East, and you remember that some time ago the discussion was all about, well, the East is advancing very rapidly, but the Western Balkans are not advancing sufficiently quickly. Well, I think this year we can conclude that actually the Western Balkans are advancing as quickly as the East, if not more quickly in some respects. We'll come to that. So I think what is also very encouraging, and we discussed that here last year, is that the two countries in the Western Balkans who fixed themselves deadlines for completing the negotiations, Montenegro N26, Albania N27, these were fixed in the summer of last year. I think the conclusion is that they're actually still on track, and they have delivered consistently. I mean, with Albania, we'll be opening the last cluster next month, and that is record speed. So anyone who tells me the enlargement methodology doesn't work should just look at, I refer them to Ferret. He can explain that it does work. And with Montenegro, we are scheduling an IGC to close 5 chapters, maybe more, to be seen by the end of the year. We haven't closed so many chapters in a single IGC for 15 years. So I'm just putting these facts on the table. With Moldova and Ukraine, of course, we completed the screening process in record time. There's no historic precedent for it. And what is more, we will make sure that the Council has all of the necessary paperwork for all of the clusters by next month. The countries themselves have also advanced significantly by making available their common positions. We all know there is a blockage in the Council. We'll come back to it, no doubt. But the key issue is that they have advanced dramatically rapidly on substance, not just in terms of procedure, and that therefore, in principle, we could be opening all of the clusters for these two countries in just a few weeks or months. So we are at a situation where the process is accelerating. Now, what we need geostrategically is for this to be consolidated. So in the Western Balkans, obviously, what we hope is not just that the two countries stick to their deadline, and then by this time next year, we will actually be looking at a near finalized accession treaty for Montenegro. We will be seeing the finishing line for Albania, but that also the others in the Western Balkans catch up. That is also very important. This is a policy for all of the Western Balkans. And similarly, if we manage to overcome the blockage in the Council, then in the East, the situation could also be dramatically different. So it's all about delivering results on the ground now in terms of the accession process. And in parallel, I want to underline that our growth plans and the Ukraine plan are actually already integrating the countries to a very large extent in the EU. And we should not forget about that. So there's a formal treaty-based process complemented by a process that I would describe as more economically oriented, which is already paying off. So you remember that we talked a little bit about the single euro payment area. Well, we actually have many countries now in SEPA, cutting costs dramatically in record time. I still remember when we started discussing it, people said, well, this is not possible. It's the Balkans. It's going to take a decade. No, it was done in a year and a half. So that is one example. We have energy integration in the East. Very ambitious scenario developed in Moldova in January of this year when the country was faced with Russian aggression, energy blackmail. Well, actually, the country is on track to be already part of the internal energy market by April of 27. As far as the industrial market for goods is concerned, we are looking at spring of next year, which is a few months from now. So my point is, it's not just the formal process, the actual integration is moving very fast. And soon, as you know, we'll be coming with a proposal on roaming, which will hopefully see the countries joining the Roamers at Home area very soon. So all in all, this is all about delivery now. It's geopolitically essential. We have plenty of challenges in the countries and in the EU, but I think our optimism of last year has been validated by the facts over the past year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director General. Before I bring the candidate countries. I hope this mic is working. I have a couple of follow-up questions. Basically, what you mentioned is that we may expect opening clusters for Ukraine and Moldova in a few weeks' time. I wonder, because we had some doubts about reservations from the member states and member state videos, so to what extent that is really the plan or could be realistic? And another quick question about the growth plans. Obviously, these are major innovations, the addition of the money, which are quite a big economic incentives, but some of the scholars, including my colleagues, found that they come very bureaucratically burdensome because they come with the plans, you know, the procedures. And yeah, there are the questions to what extent growth plans are actually working and they will be working in the future, to what extent they are not adding, you know, the burdensome process that enlargement process already is a little bit.
Thank you very much. Well, I think on the first point, what I said is we would be in a position. So we are enabling the member states in the council to do this. Now, they still need to do it. And we all know that there is one country that is not yet convinced, let me put it this way, of opening the first cluster for Ukraine. And that Moldova is also affected by this situation. I think what we can do in the Commission is make it possible for this to be done. If Hungary persists in not moving forward on this, then I think there needs to be a very serious discussion about other ways of sustaining the momentum. Because at the end of the day, what matters here, again, are the results. And the results need to be looked at from the perspective of the countries continuing to reform to ensure that they can stick to their own deadlines. And Moldova and Ukraine also would like to join in the not too distant future. So the Council has to find a way of enabling that. We've done everything, the countries and the Commission have done everything possible to do that. And I trust that at this geopolitical juncture, the Council and the Member States, 27 or 26 if necessary, will make the necessary choices.
Could we hear more? How would that go if we have like 26 on board and not one country? What will be the other ways, as you said?
Well, I think formally the situation is clear unless the methodology is changed, and I personally think that is not likely to happen in the immediate future. But there are other ways in which the position of the vast majority of member states can be expressed. And that is important because the countries, as I said, need to know what the EU expects from them, what the terms are for joining. So these need to be expressed. And we have advised on this, so we have said what we think the position should be. These are our draft, sorry to be a bit technical, draft common positions, but then it's ultimately for the Council and the Presidency to find a way of expressing this. So I don't want to elaborate on the technicalities, but that's the bottom line. To your question on the reform agendas, I actually really don't agree with that. I think whenever it is difficult to do reforms, it's easy to complain about bureaucracy. But let me praise Daniela, who represents a country that had the last version of the growth plan. And actually, for the first round, the country didn't just meet all of the requirements, it actually overachieved dramatically. So there is no bureaucratic obstacle here. What is true is that the countries are all graduating, sorry to use this term, from soccer, from second division to Premier League. And in the Premier League, you actually need to really do the reforms in order to, you can't make mistakes. You actually have to score the goals in order to stay in the Premier League and to advance. And the reform agendas are demanding in terms of the reforms, in terms of the substance. So it is natural that it takes a little bit of time for both sides to get used to this level of competition, so to speak. But what I see, and that is very encouraging, is that actually also in the Western Balkans, the countries are all getting there. And that is a step up in quality of the delivery on the reforms. So yes, it takes a little bit of time, but we are no longer satisfied with the pace of reforms of a few years ago, and what we are now seeing is a different level of delivery, different quality of delivery, and that is ultimately what the growth plans are about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's move to the front runners in the Western Balkans. Ambassador Markovic, the plan is basically for Montenegro to finish all the negotiations 2026 and be the 28th member state in 2028. How do we get there?
You summed it up perfectly. This is I think by now been successfully transmitted and become a widely known slogan. But it's much more than a slogan, a catchy slogan. It's actually a work plan which, as Hetjan said, Montenegro negotiated with presented to the Commission last year. In August last year, we together came up with a timetable of tentative negotiation chapter closure. And we are now, as I'm glad to hear Hetjan reaffirm once more, on track to break some records. Montenegro is the only candidate country for EU membership which is solely in the business of closing chapters. Montenegro got the positive interim benchmark assessment report in June last year, which enabled us to start closing chapters for the first time in 7 years. And since then, we closed 3 last year. We will double this, hopefully, in this year. And all that is just going to be an overture into a really record-breaking 2026. Record-breaking in terms of the history of EU enlargement as a whole, because no country would have ever closed so many chapters in 1 year, although Croatia gets pretty close. With a bit over 1 year, they had to close 18 chapters. Record-breaking also in terms of other things we have in our calendar. So just last night, the Prime Minister announced that Montenegro is taking over the presidency of the Berlin process. We have the EU Western Balkan Summit next year, hosted by Montenegro. We will be hosting 2 bodies, presiding over 2 bodies in the Council of Europe, and there's probably something I'm forgetting. So it's quite a calendar for next year. As I told my staff, whoever survives next year and makes it into 2027, please do tell the tale. But apart from this, it's also a statement. It's really a symbolic statement, a statement that when you have political will and determination and institutional rapid growth and development and building of trust on both sides, you make decisive progress in the enlargement process. Now, let me just briefly comment on something we heard from Hetjan. I have to vindicate the growth plan approach. We see firsthand in Montenegro as well that the performance-based, I call it a Copernican turn in EU conditionality effectiveness, really introduced by the current leadership of the Commission, is really making a revolution in how our leaderships in candidate countries look at reforms. It's no longer a zero-sum game of either you're a full member or you reach that or you get nothing. Now you get smaller carrots along the way, which has incentivized both the political leadership and the administrative, very important structure, and civil society to just move quickly ahead and accelerate. So it works. Secondly, and more importantly, regarding this either in or out dilemma, you might have seen that there's ideas floating around in the media space, in civil society space. You could call it gradual integration, staged integration, but let me be quite clear about the position of Montenegro. Montenegro is only interested in full membership with full voting rights. This is what we signed up for. This is what we genuinely and realistically can achieve in the timeline we set out for. We think ambition is good, as the President von der Leyen said in her visit to Montenegro and the region. Ambition should be rewarded, if rewarded with results, should reach the finish line as has been agreed. We have here, in the audience, in the EU visitor program, the head of our working group for the most important chapter, chapter 23. Sorry to put you on the spot, but here is a real example of a person who practically didn't sleep for a whole year for Montenegro to get an IBAR. And I think you see, and we can all have a talk later to see how this is changing the mentality of Montenegro and of enlargement process. And this change needs to be complete and needs to be rewarded as we go into the Premier League, as Gertian said. Thanks.
In terms of rewards, what should Montenegro expect from Brussels within the next 1 year?
Just what we already have: better coordination, more trust, and results will follow. We see that, this is a transformative process, not just for Montenegro, it's a transformative process for the institutions. They have forgotten in some parts, and also had the flux of administrative capacities, people coming in and out. People forgot what it's like to do enlargement. It's been so long since Croatia entered. So now everyone is up and running. We reached really top-notch working temperature, and we have to keep it up. And we have to keep inventing out-of-the-box ways to overcome impasses, which are sometimes put by red tapes, sometimes by national interest, sometimes by particular private interest. But we have all the elements in place to make enlargement, sorry for the pun, great again. And I think what we have witnessed with this year's visit of Madam President of the European Commission to the region, and in particular in Montenegro with the EU-Montenegro Investment Conference, is that the missing element, that political and legal harmonization and convergence should be followed with better, deeper, faster economic convergence, is now also here. So I am a really optimist, but my optimism is founded in realism, let's put it that way.
Thank you so much. And with that, on this note, let's bring in Ambassador of Albania. How are the situation with Albania? So another front runner, basically aiming to finish negotiations 2027. Is that it?
Yeah. Well, first, thank you very much for organizing this, and of course the attendance is really very good sight, but also music. What we hear, music in our ears. I mean, it has been really a long time that we haven't seen this enthusiasm for enlargement, and I couldn't agree more with what Pedro was sharing. When we say front runners, we are very sober about that. Really, we handle it very care. We don't mention it, we don't say it. It's just like that vase that is really precious, and you handle it with care. Because we have seen in the past that others have been front runners, and they are no longer. So we are really sober. What matters is what we are doing, how we are doing. We are checking, advancing, and of course, meeting our commitments. Our plans are very clear. We had a fantastic year, unprecedented. There are some records for Albania as well into the records that Montenegro mentioned. We opened in less than 1 year 28 chapters, and probably next month we will complete all the chapters. This is also due to the methodology. This is due to a real work, and I would want to mention the very excellent work done by DGNS, by Gertian, by his team. They've really worked extremely hard, and we're lucky to have them. We're lucky to have them under the excellent leadership of Commissioner Kos. And for the first time in our 35 years of relationship with the European Union, we see the Union keep its word, work, deliver, talk the talk and walk the walk. It has really been a long time that we haven't heard this convincing words about enlargement and real prospects with plans, as Gertan mentioned. And our plan is to really open all the clusters and chapters this year. Meet as soon as possible by next year, early next year, the EBARs, and we are in very good track. Of course, it's not an easy thing. It's the most convincing element of halfway negotiations. And then start closing as much as possible, of course, in a very convincing way, and possibly, at least this is the plan, to finish technical negotiations by 2027. And of course, enter the next phase, which is the accession treaty, and of course, ratifications whenever that come. Our plan is to make sure that Albania becomes a member within the lifetime of this commission, or close to. So this is the work, this is our base, this is what we do day and night, this is what really wakes up us in 3 in the morning, and this is what everyone in the parliament administration does. There is nothing that starts and doesn't finish with EU integration in Albania today. There is no meeting of the government that doesn't start with EU integration, checking, updating where we are, what needs to be done, how to be done. It's not easy. We were not used to this rhythm, but it's exactly what we like and exactly what we wanted. For us, this has started 35 years ago. And 35 years ago, in the life of a person, if you have not managed to do something, you're a complete failure. Thankfully, in the life of a nation, time is measured differently. A lot has happened, which also makes it easy for us to probably advance in this rhythm, because the process, let me tell everybody, it's of course geopolitically driven now, but the process remains merit-based. There is absolutely no shortcut, and I see it, how difficult it is to negotiate sometimes with Gertjan and with others around him on very specific issues. There are no shortcuts. Things have to be done, commitments have to be met, engagements are there, and of course EU common positions are there, and they will not be curtailed. So what has been done is very serious, real work, and we see that we are able. We see that our administration is capable. We are, of course, the motor is overheating, but we're adding more oil around it, and we're absolutely sure that we can make it.
So positive. I'm so glad to hear that. And as we are listening, I think our audience may also wonder, because this is so ambitious, what about challenges? What would be the main challenges on Albania's, European integration path?
When we open chapters, and probably that's the easy part of it, we think that we have to close them. And closing them means that we have to really do everything that we promise. And when we present our negotiating position, there are a number of commitments, which of course are then translated into the EU common positions, which of course for us becomes law. So that is the law, and we have to apply. We have to meet those benchmarks before we pretend to become European Union member. Challenges, there are numerous, of course. There are chapters that are, nothing is easy with the European Commission and in the negotiation process. Everything is demanding, but chapters like agriculture, environment, energy, sustainability and resilience, local, the commitment, the understanding and commitment of the local power, because they are a little bit away. Everything happens for now in Tirana, in the capital. But they have to, it's 70% of the acquis is linked in a way or another with the local government. So these are challenges, and we need to communicate better in the country. And I see that we have a need, and this is being worked out. Another challenge, of course, is having the ability to mobilize not only the resources that are needed now, but the resources that are needed next month, in the next 3 months, next year, in 2027, and so on. And that's not very easy. And this is why we need to communicate more, because we need part of our people who, including those who are in Brussels now and working also around the European Commission, come back home and work for Albania, because we'll be a member. So we need to really make sure that we mobilize every energy in the country, outside the country, for the process. Because there is nothing more important, more crucial than this one. And this is happening. So this is something that we need to really tell our youth. It's happening. It's not like in the past when there was a lot of talk, when we thought things would happen, but everybody knew that it was not really very, very serious. There was always, EU was keeping us on leash, always, and trying to really differentiate the distance. But we still, I'm glad that Albania always believed in the process. As my Prime Minister said yesterday in London, the very right place, that we believed in the process, even when for some, it became ridiculous to believe into the unhappening. I think that has saved us time, because we've done a lot of work that is being capitalized now, but we're absolutely aware of the immense work that we still need to do, of the convincing that we need to do, and of the real convincing that we will have to do once the technical process with the Commission is done, that we need to convince the European citizens. And for this, we need everybody. We need the Commission, we need the commissioners, we need the member states, we need the influencers, we need moral and other authorities in the member states to explain not how beautiful is Albania when we visit it, but how important it is for the European Union to enlarge. And if I had the time, that probably will come later, I would make some key points why it is important to communicate for people in France or in Germany or in Austria that enlargement is good for them as well as much as it's good for Albania.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Endorsed by other ambassadors. Let's go to other country in the Western Balkan, the Kosovo, which is still a potential candidate country, although we see quite a big desire and delivery on the reforms as well as joining to the EU. So what are strategic priorities for Kosovo?
Thank you, Tina and CEPS for getting us all together. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a timely discussion and continuous one. And before I answer to that question, maybe start by saying that we are all aware, of course, that the war in Ukraine, the Russian aggression there and the situation there has revived the enlargement agenda, and we need to be grateful and thankful to Ukrainian people and the state for the resistance, because that's what enabled us to.
The mic is not on. Yes.
Is it working?
No need to repeat. I think we can go on.
Should I repeat?
No need.
Great. Yes, we need to, all of us need to be grateful to Ukraine for its resistance, because that's what got us here. Because simply the war in Ukraine did not simply revive the enlargement agenda, it has redefined it, in our view. So enlargement is no longer a technical exercise only. It has become one of Europe's most effective strategic and security instruments. That goes without saying for our region as well. So if enlargement is again recognized as a strategic policy, then we need to see European Union acting and demonstrating full consistency and fairness in the process. The other point that I would like to mention is that we have seen all of the opinion polls and the measurements of the public sentiment throughout EU, and we have seen that in general the public, especially the young people of European Union countries, member states, are in favor of enlargement, which is, I think, a very positive sign and signal, especially now in the context that we live in. But what the citizens of EU are against is the inconsistency in the process, and this is what we need to see more consistency in addressing the enlargement with fairness and credibility in it. Now, you asked me about our objectives. Kosovo, we. By every measure, I think we are one of the most pro-European countries among the group. Together with Albania, I think we score more than 90% of support for EU membership. Apart from that, as a country, our institutions, we have been implementing the Stabilization and Association Agreement since 2016. We have advanced in the past years in rule of law reforms and aligned fully with European Union foreign and security policy, including sanctions on Russia, which often we have done more consistently than some of the member states even. Despite this, we have seen less progress than we expected on the path of European Union integration. And when I mention this, I would like to mention the measures, punitive measures which still stand against Kosovo since June of 2023. Apart from the fact that I consider that they were not only unnecessary but also unfair, I think that it is unfortunate that since June of 2024 there was a recommendation by European Union High Representative that they should be lifted, and they are still not. And I think this is something that deals with the credibility that we need to see also from EU. Again, these measures were not in response to Kosovo doing something, having a regression in democratic process. I need to remind everybody that they came after a particular situation in the north, which from our perspective was about implementing rule of law and making sure that institutions are preserving the constitutional order. But in the meantime, we also had other actions and attacks which have put us in a tight spot, coming from Serbia especially. And in this regard, after Banjska terrorist attack in September 2023, I think that the measures have lost all the meaning. So if we move further in security aspect, and I think this is one of the major, let's say, issues that have given rise to this urgency in enlargement. Speaking on that, I think that the Western Balkans remains a strategically sensitive region for EU. Russia's influence in the region is very notable. It's not an abstraction. It runs directly through Belgrade, through its media and church and intelligence services. And this we have seen, of course, in the Banjska incident, but not only. So in this regard, I think that a stable and secure Kosovo strengthens European stability, and recognizing that reality and responding consistently to these threats is vital for EU and for all of us in the region. So what we actually expect and would like to see, and what we are fighting for, let's put it like that, is to also in Kosovo's case to have a very principled and merit-based enlargement process, which we have seen happen with Albania and Montenegro, which we have seen happen with Ukraine, and we support that, and we support the progress that they have made, because we think that having Albania and Montenegro joining the EU would be benefit for everybody in the region, and we should all work for that to happen. But we also need progress to be seen in Kosovo's case. And when I mean progress, I'm referring to the fact that in December of 2022, we have applied for the membership, and that application has not been reviewed at all yet. And I know that it is not only Commission that is being in charge of these issues, but I think EU needs to find a way, just like we have found a way when the visa liberalization happened, and like we have found a way when the SAA agreement was concluded between EU and Kosovo. We should find a way to conclude this process and to finally, let's use the soccer terms, graduate Kosovo from into the Premier League together with the other countries. So to conclude, what is important for us is that Europeans do not oppose enlargement, they oppose inconsistency. Everybody understands that Europe is stronger when it stands by those who share its principles and contribute to its security. And Kosovo's pass is therefore a test, not of its own readiness only, but of the EU's capacity to fairly and strategically treat us as well, just like everybody else. So with this, I will conclude, and if there's any more questions, we can, of course, exchange.
Thank you so much. This was very comprehensive. Perhaps Director General would like to react about EU's capacity to treat candidate countries fairly and consistently.
Thank you. Yes, listen, I think the situation in Kosovo obviously is not what we would like it to be in terms of the EU path. That is clear from my perspective, speaking on a personal note. But let us also be clear, we haven't had a government in Kosovo since February, Agron, if I'm not mistaken. It's a bit difficult to negotiate with a country if it doesn't have a government. So what we see is that in the region there are countries that have domestic issues, that have other priorities in some cases. I'm not saying that this is the case in Kosovo. And there are those countries, we just heard two of them, who are fully focused on enlargement. So my advice to the country really is to focus on that, because unless one is fully committed, it is difficult to see how we move forward. We in the Commission have been lifting the measures to which you referred after a very difficult discussion in Council last year. We would stand ready, obviously, to provide an opinion on Kosovo's membership application. But for this, the Council needs to invite us, and I think there needs to be a little bit of a reflection also in Kosovo why the Council isn't doing that. So, sorry to be so tough, but I think the world we live in is one where, frankly speaking, if you work hard, the rewards are very high. If there isn't this type of investment and progress, then also the rewards are not forthcoming. And I'm saying this in general terms. That's not a criticism of Kosovo, but this is what we see. In a way, the bifurcation is between those who really choose, prioritize the EU path, and those that, for legitimate reasons, find it more difficult. And my advice to all of them who are in the second group is really to prioritize the EU path. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director.
Well, yeah, thank you for the comments, Director Kopman. I think there is a government in Kosovo. It is caretaker government, yes. It has its limits in the mandate, yes, but it is not a governmentless country. And I think the discussions have been ongoing. We have been working on particular issues that will be addressed after there is a fully fledged government in place. So we have not been standing. And the kind of situation that we have now, which of course lasts since February, has not been the case before February. So we are talking about a much longer period of time on that front. On the other front, of course, we have always been very active to engage with the member states in the Council and outside bilaterally. But we think that the issue here is not whether we merit the candidacy status. The issue is a very political one because there are 5 non-recognizing states, and we understand that. But we also think that the Commission has to be more active into working together with us to address that problem if we are to move forward, because we see this as a joint venture and a joint performance which should bring common benefit. So this is my response.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Noted. Let's go to the eastern flank. Deputy Ambassador Diakon, I don't want to make any points about Ukraine because we all follow. There is so much going on about the country still at war. So floor is yours. Whatever you would like to share with us, what is strategic priorities for Ukraine's fast-track accession?
Thank you, Tina. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here at CEPS, and I would like to thank you for your consistent, over many years, attention to enlargement. We have seen that it's not only about debates, but it's about proposing concrete solutions which help to steer the process as well. Indeed, what I would like to say today for Ukraine, EU enlargement and EU accession is not only about typical things that we know accession is, about prosperity, stability, about ticking the boxes on reforms. For Ukraine, it has been an existential choice. We have had 2 revolutions with our people demanding first association agreement, which, by the way, is helping us a lot right now to advance faster on the reforms that we need in the context of the accession. Then later, it was mentioned already that attack on Ukraine from Russia revived and redefined the accession. I just would like to remind that Ukraine applied for candidate status on the 5th day of full-scale invasion. However, being said that, we don't expect that it's only about geopolitics for us. We rely on merit-based approach. We are doing what is necessary from our side, in terms of reforms and in terms of everything that has to be done. Director Kopman mentioned the record screening process. Indeed, we are very much grateful for the Commission's support in helping to do it fast. However, it wouldn't be possible without us delivering as well. So we understand that we can't move forward only, without delivering. So we do our best to deliver. However, we have to be aware, all here in Brussels, that the situation right now is really tough. We see that Russia doesn't want peace. It is not ready to stop the war. We are entering the 4th winter, which might be the most tough winters in the beginning of full-scale invasion, with blackouts, constant shelling throughout all of Ukraine, including Kiev. So it means that with everything that we have to do, which is already difficult, and the dynamics in the parliament is also peculiar because we are a country which is used to elections. Our politicians are used to and it's difficult to have this situation right now. But on top of that, we are facing blackouts and shellings and losing people every day on the front line. So in this regard, I was I appreciate what was mentioned by Director Koopman, that we can be in a position to finish the technical work on all clusters very soon. That is something which is really important for us, and we hope to find the way to open the first cluster as soon as possible, and the rest. We are not waiting to open the clusters. We are doing what is already necessary. We have prepared the roadmaps which are necessary for the first cluster. However, it is not a secret that it's easier to structure reforms, to do them more quickly when you have clear timelines, when you have clear the position of the EU, what is expected from us. It helps a lot. So we really hope that the way will be found to open the first and other remaining clusters for Ukraine as soon as possible. We are ready to deliver. We are ready also to strengthen the EU with everything we have, because it was mentioned by some of them, but I think it was Ambassador of Albania that mentioned that enlargement is not only about strengthening the candidate countries, it's also about strengthening the EU. And we believe that Ukrainian people with their and Ukraine as a country with its potential in innovation, technology, defense, and highly motivated and resilient people is a huge contribution to the EU, which is looking to the new ways how to cope with geostrategic challenges. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Ambassador.
Oh, sorry.
We're very much looking forward to Ukraine going even further and opening the clusters. I think there will be more questions on Ukraine, so I'll reserve them for the audience. And let's move to Moldova. Well, on a personal note, as an expert following the wars, my own country, Georgia, Moldova was the only hope that gave me a smile on my face for the past few months. The country had, 3 very decisive events, 2 elections, referendum. We saw how much European choice stands very still and prevails with all the Russian interferences. So thanks to Moldova for that, to giving us the hope in Brussels. And yeah, I mean, it's very good to check in with you. We've heard such a good comments from Director General about Moldova's progress. So what lies ahead for Moldova? Because now also, Ambassador Morari, the expectations are very high. With the new government, both the present government, very pro-European, expectations are very high to deliver on the reforms. So what Moldova would need from Brussels also to keep up this pace? Thank you.
Thank you, Tinatin. First of all, and Karel and the entire team of SEPS to put it together. Thank you for following us and also cheering for our successes. I think it's indeed for us a good timing to have this discussion, this conversation. It's indeed just after our election, where our citizens, very vocal and very decisive, gave their vote to anchor Moldova in the European Union, despite all the challenges, provocations, and everything we've been through. Also, it's just after we finished an important stage in our enlargement, which is the bilateral screening, just Director General mentioned. We would like to advance further on the next. We had yesterday the first session of the Parliament, where the first formation of the new Parliament is there. So we also expect in the next days to have the new government. So it's indeed good to have a discussion and brainstorming on the priorities, what should be taken on board. Today is the EUCO, where we hope also to see the heads of government and states in which way and forms perhaps could also discuss on the steps further. Also to get inspiration from all the colleagues which are a few steps ahead of us, and we are learning a lot from and getting inspiration. for us, we waiting for the new prime minister and the new government to be formed. As the ones that will follow the candidate of the nominated candidate for the prime minister will take as a main priority, like of course it's the accession, and the main goal that it's the mandate the citizens gave to the parliament and to the government, it's to do all the necessary work for us to join the European Union. And the economic dimension will be the key priority. We'll continue on this 4 big dimension that we've been working, like to advance on accession. We also been doing, as Oksana been mentioning, all the work for the roadmaps for the cluster 1 and all the technical works for preparing for the negotiation positions. Our teams are not having weekends, evenings, nights. They are kind of working super hard on this. Also, all the work for the another dimension is the accelerated integration, like what we can do more in the shoes that we are now. We've been working, identifying many of the EU programs, EU instruments. We're very grateful that Moldova could join the SEPA with I think Albania, North Macedonia and Montenegro from 6th of October. Our citizens already can do transactions at a cheaper price. From 1st of December, we're joining the Rome like at home, and also trying to identify different other instruments that will allow the teams to be part of different agencies, working groups, have access to different additional funds. So learning earlier and also benefiting of that, it's also an important dimension for us. Of course, the growth plan, it's the third in a way dimension. And now it's a lot of hard work, many difficult reforms that we are committed to follow. Usually we hear the mission are the bad cops back home and the good cops here. So all the priorities and focus, and it's a lot of VTCs and meetings to really follow every piece of the reform and the commitments we have on the reform agenda, and to make sure that we can deliver on all of them by the deadlines that we set ourselves. And fourth, it's important for us to continue to strengthen security and to build resilience. We have many lessons learned that we've been through in this process of election, the parliamentary election of this year, but also presidential and referendum last year. We got better. We got, with the EU support and the member states, better institutions, also an understanding and instruments how to react and how to fight back and how to prevent. So we're also very open to share this experience to other countries that will go through something similar in terms of disinfo, in terms of cyber, in terms of hybrid threats, in terms of illegal Russian money coming in different forms and ways, in reactions of institutions, cooperation of law enforcement, using different new instruments at EU level. So all this, it's important to continue. We received a lot of help and support for which we're very grateful, but now we know that the challenges will not stop, they will continue or even increase. So it's important to see which instruments can be transformed from the emergency or like single kind of form to something more medium or kind of long-term where it's necessary. So these other dimensions will continue to work, but of course, as the topic is the enlargement, for us it's important to do all the work and all the commitment on our side, but also to follow the guidance at EU level and the institutions how to advance. We know and we experienced on our own skin when it's a will, it's a way. And we very much trust into this, and it's indeed as it's in the June European Council conclusions mentioned Commission says that Republic of Moldova is ready, and it's for the Council to look on the ways how to advance. Looking forward for today's European Council conclusions, if it's going to be references on that, and we'll do our part of work. I very much agree with Farid been mentioning on the work with the member states, with the work of convincing, on work on doing like the work with the member states at different level. Also to the work with our own society. We have many lessons learned also inside, being through several electoral exercises, what we should do better. It's a lot of commitment, a lot of hard work to continue, and of course to deliver on the homework. But on this, we're already used to deliver and also to get organized. It's of course we'll need in different parts some expertise, some resources, and also like to have the kind of the coordination in different forms, how to cut it into small pieces to be more digestible. But all the will and all the resources on our side are there.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Morari. On this note, let me open the floor to the questions from the audience. Please raise your hands. I will collect the questions. So one question here, there, and then it will come there. We can take it. So the gentleman here, then we'll go to the lady.
First of all, thank you very much for this very timely event. My name is Giorgio Bakidze. I'm the former Georgian diplomat. Now I'm the founder of the EU Awareness Center here in Brussels. I have one short comment and one question. So my comment is that it is, as a Georgian diplomat, it is heartbreaking for me not to see here a Georgian ambassador sitting next to his colleagues and discussing the progress of Georgia on the European integration path. But unfortunately, Georgian government, instead of choosing the reforms, is combating the ephemerous deep state and the World War Party or something like this. My comment would be that please don't give up on Georgia. There are the people in the street, 300 days protesting for their European path. And then especially to all my European colleagues, please don't give up on Georgia. And my question would be going to Mr. Gett. How do you think what the European Union can do at this stage to help the Georgian people to keep its European path and to return back to this European path where we once was the forerunners? Thank you very much.
The question to the lady in the first row. Yes, please, and introduce yourself if you could.
Thank you. My name is Asisa Huja, and I'm from the Confederation of Swedish Enterprise. We are the biggest business organization in Sweden, and we have very recently started a very ambitious project to prepare our member companies for the enlargement of the EU. And I would like to just sort of start my question in what the DG Koopman was saying on that the gradual integration process is also a little bit about the economic integration of these countries. And so economic integration for us is ultimately something that is B2B, it's business to business. And so I would like to ask the representatives of the candidate countries that are here, thank you very much for being here. How do you see the growth plans and the DCFTAs actually encouraging such B2B engagement? And to you, Director General, I would like to ask, could you say something about if you have seen any effects that early, gradual, or staged accession, call it as you will, it has many names, may have on the functioning of the single market? Can we expect some fragmentation, or are they safeguards that you could say something about? Thank you so much.
Thank you. The questions here on this flank. So we start from, yes, from Frauke, please.
Thank you very much. Frauke Sebers, SWP Brussels, German Foreign Policy Think Tank. Thank you, Excellencies, and thank you, Sebs and Tina, for organizing this. I have one short question to Mr. Koopman regarding the growth plans. You mentioned that the Western Balkan countries, they're all getting there, but if you look at it on paper, it doesn't look like they're all getting there. And I would like to ask what is the state of play and what are the potential consequences also for the countries that at this point are not there? So in terms of distribution distribution of money and so forth. And one a little bit critical question that I think as a front runner you have to accept at this point is the Constitutional Court still has some issues. There was still not the selection of the last judge, which of course is a huge problem when it comes to the reforms. So could you maybe tell us a bit on how this is going to progress? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Iliriana, next to Frauke.
Hello, thank you, Tina. Thank you, Excellencies. My name is Iliriana Johnny. I'm a research analyst at Carnegie Europe. First, on a positive note, I would like to bring just a small comment as an Albanian from Montenegro to bring in the Western Balkan perspective. I must say it is a very different feeling to sit here today compared to 6 years ago when I moved to Brussels in order to work on EU integration of the Western Balkans, when I was met with extremely suspicious looks for my mental health situation. However, some of those looks were also replicated later on when the momentum, let's say, of enlargement on and off would go lower because other things were happening, obviously, at the global level. But I must commend our ambassadors and the EU institutions that, as of recently, as a Western Balkan person, make us feel that this is possible, that this is going to happen, and I feel really it is a historical moment. So really thank you for all your work. Not perfect, full of challenges, obstacles, etc., but it's important. We, as Western Balkan people, we look at you and we think this is moving ahead. On my questions.
One, please, Iliriana. We have
two very short ones.
Okay, very short.
It will be on the... Petar mentioned, Ambassador Markovic mentioned that Montenegro is not considering being a member without voting rights. But we have heard that there are candidate countries that would consider this, and I would be curious how would this be a good thing in their eyes and not in others. And for Mr. Kopman, since the buzzword on the Kosovo comment was fairness, was it entirely fair to not shortly take into consideration the complete dependency of Kosovo's progress, let's say not complete, but wide dependency on the dialogue between Pristina and Belgrade, and seeing that maybe the ultimate judges of the success of a government are their citizens, is their citizen satisfaction, and we have had Serbian citizens all over the streets in Serbia for the past year. Wouldn't have this been a moment to maybe a little bit more constructively engage with Kosovo as a country that, despite the caretaker government, still is showing progress on its democratic standards? Thank you
So much. Could you remind who wanted to ask a question? There is a question there? No. We see the question right in the back to the lady. Please. And other questions in the room, because I need to collect. Sure, I see one more question.
I'm Nazrina Akbarli, young European ambassador from EU Neighbours East, and my question is to the Director General, Mr. Kopman. So the recent geopolitical events happening in the South Caucasus are usually seen as a shift towards moving away from the colonial past and the Soviet past. And how does the EU neighborhood policy impact on this? Which impact does it have on it? And what can regional initiatives do to support this change towards like strategic autonomy and regionalism, regional cooperation?
In the South Caucasus, did you have any other
Yes.
any countries in mind?
I mean Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia.
Great. And there is one more question to the gentleman on the third row in the back.
So Zaza Abashidze, journalist from Georgia. I will add, another part of the question which my colleague from Georgia already asked. Even if the trajectory changes completely today, how realistic is that this decline can be reversed and to catch up some other countries, which already done the huge progress, and we hear these experiences here. So that's another part about Georgia. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Question right there, Kezia. Yes.
Hi, my name is Milan. I'm a Schumann traineeship at the European Parliament, and my question is: so yeah, the more countries they're part of the EU, the more difficult the decision making will be in the future. So what do you think about that? It's a general question. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, the last question, and we will come to the question here in the middle.
Hi, thank you. My name is Mako Inasaritza. I'm a master student here in Brussels. My question is regarding the rise of populism, illiberal populism, and Euroscepticism in Europe, and how the Commission, if the Commission has any strategies for combating this rising narrative and trend within Europe, and how it would affect EU enlargement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Time to go back to the panelists. Is that I'm just thinking of the running order. Maybe Ambassador Markovic, would you like to start? I noted questions to Montenegro. If you missed them, I will remind you.
Thanks, Tina. I think I wrote them down, although with terrible handwriting, so let's see. But okay, I'll start with Frauke, with whom we all probably have cooperated and who has been writing innovative stuff that really resonates on the Constitutional Court of Montenegro. Rule of law remains the alpha and omega of accession of Montenegro and all of us here. There's a running homework list. As we said, it's not ideal. Sometimes we do it, sometimes we run behind. With the Constitutional Court, it's particularly sensitive because of what it means for the political system. We are still not in the red zone. We still have a couple of months for electing these judges. We have had cases in the past where we passed this red line. We know what's at stake. We have had cases in the past where we just voted regardless of the actual CV of the person so that we wouldn't get into the red line. We know this has its flaws as well. What we are trying now in Montenegro is to do both the form and the substance to satisfy the deadline and to actually take a deep dive and look into the biographies of candidates at hand. So trust us. We know that we always, that was what I was like as a student as well, just before the deadline, but we make it, I hope. Yep. Iliriana, we are proud to have you as well. I'm sure that Ferit and I agree. Yes, it was, but it's also about changing the hearts and minds of Brussels and capitals, and it's people like Iliriana with, divided loyalties, mixed identities, and 2 homes, 3 homes, and a talented, accomplished person. She and the likes of the people in the audience here are changing what it means to be Albanian, Montenegrin, European. So it is about voting rights. It's about voting in member states, parliaments on our prospective accessions, and people like this change the parliamentarians' minds. But voting rights. Montenegro is against the exclusion of its voting rights because we feel we are so close to the finish line. It would really be counterproductive to change the rules of the game once again. I will remind you that unlike any of the countries at this table or those which are not at this panel, which are in the race, Montenegro is the only one which didn't benefit from the new enlargement methodology because clusters mean nothing to us. We had already opened all chapters. Each one of our chapters had opening benchmarks. So we had I don't know the maths, but at least triple amount of conditions to satisfy in order to get where we are. So we feel we will have deserved the voting rights when we get to the finish line, and there's no reason anyone, east, west, south, north, should be anxious about this because Montenegro has shown, because we aligned 100% with CFSP since day one of the negotiations, without any exception, that we are a reliable partner, that we will not be the veto player in the council, change voting patterns, and you can count on us to be a real Western, fully member state, and why then not give us the vote? The Schumann intern, whose name I didn't manage to write, had said decision making is going to be difficult. Yes, with 36 members, it's much more difficult to get unanimity. But what we do know is that the EU was a functioning 28 member state formation, and that with the enlargement to Montenegro, it can be a 28 member state formation again without changing any of the rules. Yeah, this is what I got.
Thank you. Maybe quick comment on Swedish Confederation about the B2B?
Beautiful comment, and exactly compatible with the shift of the approach of the Commission and member states investing enlargement is a strategic investment in our security, but for enlargement to do this, you actually need to invest money, and you need business to meet business. For Montenegro, the investment conference last week in Tivat was a very nice shift from G to Gs to B to Bs. And this is how it should be. I'll tell you that for last 30 plus years, most investors in Montenegro come from Central Asia, Asia, etc. This is not our strategic choice, but EU investors were not did not feel the need to come to such a small market. Now that we are rapidly integrating into the single market, we are not a 500,000 population, we are a 500 million market, and people are coming to Montenegro to invest. So I invite your business to come to Montenegro and invest as well.
Thank you. Ambassador?
I'll quickly make 3 quick points. One, referring to the question of our Swiss colleague, yes, I mean, I would add to what Peter was saying, that it is exactly this mindset that we have now. And it is with this mindset that we organized last week the first, actually, ever EU Western Balkan Investment Forum. And Gertjan was present, including, and the President van der Leyen was there as well. This is exactly to think how we will be behaving tomorrow. But for this, we have to think today, so that we open our I mean, Albania, but also the whole Western Balkan, to prospects, so that investment become easier. Because the more we align with the European Union, the more we adopt the rules of the game, the easier it will become for everybody to go not only to prospect, but also to invest. And this is the mindset that we have. And speaking about the gradual integration, of course, we need to go beyond just what we have so far, which is visa, SEPA very recently, and probably the roaming very soon. I think we need to go a little bit further and see how we can also really materialize into important aspects of the internal market. Because at the end of the day, there is nothing better that can prepare us to adopt the mentality of what Marta Kos keeps telling us: think as a member state. Have the mentality of a member state, but we can do that by doing. And I give you one example. Albania aligns since Middle Ages with the common foreign and security policy with the European Union. Now, what prevents us to be an observer in the room? Albania, Montenegro do that, and not only, but there are some others as well, including Kosovo, by the way. So what prevents us to really be in the room? Because we agree with every single decision that they make. We have no voting rights yet, and I'll come to that point. But exactly, and it's not always easy to align 100% with the European Union, but it's a decision, it's a choice, and we do it. So this is the mindset that we think of when we speak about gradual integration. Now, growth plan. Yes, extremely important. And again, thinking outside the box. 3 years ago, nobody would have spoken about a growth plan. It needed thinking, courage, and doing. And it has been one of the processes that have been processed in the most quick ways, given how these processes are handled in the European Union. The Commission, the Member States, and the Parliament, they all did it in less than 8 months. So this is absolutely remarkable. And let me tell you, I call the growth plan the little Marshall Plan, because of its magnitude. Of course, it's important for us. It's almost nothing in the terms of financing from the European Union, because the big Marshall Plan is the convergence funds. And that Marshall Plan is different from the US, because it's always continuous in terms of bringing those who are less developed to the level of those more developed. Let's take one example, and this is in the report of CEPS. In 20 years, in 2 decades only, those big bankers who joined in 2004, they went from 45% of convergence to 80%. In the same period for Western Balkans, it was only 13%. 13 points. So that's the magic of the convergence funds. That's the magic of the European Union. That's the magic of solidarity in doing things together for the common good. Voting rights. Now, there's a little bit of confusion. My Prime Minister spoke yesterday about the veto, not on the voting rights, because almost everything is in the European Union is the voting rights. Of course, we will never give that up, because otherwise, what's the sense of being a member? But we are not blind. We understand that enlargement brings also complexity. We understand that there is a discussion between enlarging but also reforming internally. So we will try to make it as easy as possible, so that we do not become problems in a debate. we do not go to the European Union to use our veto. Against whom? For what? No, we go there to work with others, to do things together. And for this, we are completely open. We don't need a veto to go to the European Union. We need to go there for the 1 billion reasons that I can mention you if you have time, but I don't have time. So this is the mindset that we have. And of course, the Prime Minister said yesterday, we would be willing to relinquish our veto, providing that this goes in along with the reform of the EU and so on and so on. So he was not very clear about that, but everybody understands what it means. One thing for Georgia. Except with the exception, the illustrious exception of Gertjan, everybody around here has been under dictatorship in a way or another. So don't lose hope. Things change, and they will change. And things will happen because the good always triumphs. So never give up hope. And the last thing, again, in our thinking how to make things easy for us to enter, we know that, well, there are already 27 commissioners. We think that in the future, we're completely open to the idea that of rotating commissioners, and we're glad to start with that, if ever we have the chance to do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Ambassador Morari?
I will start with the question on the involvement of the businesses and the private sector and how to put the work together. I just wanted to recall that we didn't have a growth plan. It was us asking for a growth plan because it was the growth plan for the Western Balkans. It was the facility for Ukraine. We didn't have any financial instrument and we really felt that we needed. Well, we also have the huge impact of the war against Ukraine on economic field. Even we believe we have very good wine, and we believe that it's kind of a moment, different business forums that will be an appeal for, but it doesn't work. So we really needed to have a special instrument and also to help us to deliver reforms and also to have with some support in some sectors which need some support to stay afloat, and also some other sectors to generate growth. And additional to this, also to have support to involve the private sector and the businesses to work with us. And in the beginning of September, Commissioner Kos announced call for the private sector, where it's special opportunities how businesses could also come to the Republic of Moldova and with joint investments to help and to start to increase the cooperation and also the new opportunities on this. And we also acknowledge that without economic growth, it's going to be very difficult to deliver on all the other priorities I was mentioning, being accession, being security, being also, and the citizens also been voting for that to improve the economic conditions back home. So it's a huge kind of responsibility and effort. So we also know we cannot do it alone. It's important to find ways how to help the businesses home and also how to build bridges. And we're a small country, and to reach out to different, it's difficult. So to have platforms as associations, as something similar that you mentioned, it would be very interesting for us. So we are looking for different opportunities in this context, and this is exactly what we will be focused in the next months and years. It was a question on also gradual integration. Just to add a few, for us, additional to what Farid been mentioning, is also an element of reversibility, how we can anchor into different processes. And we already have very good examples. We are full member into the civil protection mechanism. We are part of TNT network. We joined the NSOE from March 2022 together with Ukraine. We are doing all the work for the integration into the digital market with all the work aligning for the roaming, but also now we are doing all the work for integrating of our EVO, which is a digital platform with the e-wallet. So we'll have the same delivered by the same deadlines as the member states. So it's many examples like this, which are important for our institutions, for like ownership, but also to anchor in different processes as early as possible, because this is the way how we learn, how we apply, how to learn from this. And we're very interested to identify what we can do more. And it's a job in itself. When we go to the commission, we don't have the list in front of the door, so it's an effort to identify, to go, to get inspiration from Farid and Peter, for other colleagues. So we'll continue to work on that. And it's also, for the examples I gave, it proves that it works. It delivers for the citizens, it gives new opportunities for the businesses and for different actors and stakeholders. About the raising of extremism, and we are worried, and we also saw how different instruments and also the Russian interference, the hybrid threats, the platform being used in different forms by the algorithms in all way, they are challenging the democratic instruments. So for us it's important to work together on how to further strengthen the democracy and democratic processes. We had an investigative journalism investigation that proved that interference for the current election we had in September started the 4th day from the presidential election, like from November 24, the interference started for September 25. So only having monitoring missions from the election day, it's too little to really monitor the scale of everything that is going on. So it's very important to do all the work together and to build on the lessons learned and how the next elections will be organized in different countries, being in the EU, outside the EU. And here it's just a reference to the questions on the neighborhood policy instruments. And we are part as Moldova from the ENP and Eastern Partnership. Just on Monday in Luxembourg, being the big ministerial meeting with all the ministers from Eastern Partnership, Black Sea and Central Asia, and to see what we can do more and how we can cooperate on building security across the Black Sea, but also on connectivity, being energy, transport, or digital. And it's to see what more we can do together on this. I think I will stop.
That was already comprehensive. Thank you so much. You can keep the microphone. Let's go to Deputy Ambassador if you have a few points. Yes, it's on.
It's on. I have very quick comment on the question on B2B. So we are very much aware how important it is. Actually, this year we had the first ever Ukraine-EU Business Summit here in Brussels in April, back-to-back to our Association Council. And B2B and private investment is pretty high on the agenda of Ukraine Recovery Conference. We have this platform, which is also supported by the Commission, because we understand that private sector and private investment would be an important driver for recovery, future recovery of Ukraine when the war ends. So yes, we are working on that. And a very brief comment, reflection on rise of far right and what was mentioned by Ambassador of Moldova. So Ukraine has unique experience in countering Russia's hybrid threats, and recently we have stepped up a lot dialogue with the EU on this topic. Just a couple last week ago, we had a cyber dialogue with the EU and a lot and discussions on how we can share our experience in on countering Russia's hybrid threats, because it's not only about drones, it's not only weaponizing migration, it's also about supporting far-right movements across the Europe. So we have to see it also as a hybrid threat. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Ambassador. Ambassador Bayrami, if you would like to quickly comment.
Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you all for the questions and comments, and obviously the B2B comment was very useful because it puts everything in perspective for us. Growth plan was this framework within which we would be able to move forward in that direction as well. And just shortly about the growth plan, I think we all supported the idea when it came out, because not only because it brings some new funds for particular fields and reforms, but also because it changed the way how EU itself looked at the enlargement. And we can only hope that the growth plan, let's call it mentality, can be copied into other parts of EU relationship with our countries. That's as far as the growth plan is concerned. And within that, of course, B2B, I mean, all of the countries we aim to become, or we are becoming, democratic countries ruled by law, in which governments are administering or let's say facilitating the relationship within the country. So business will be, let's say, the main actor in terms of cooperation, economic cooperation between us and EU and the others. And I think in the current global environment, we see that the necessity of Europeans to work more with each other is bigger. It's strategically important. So I think, yes, enlarging also in this dimension will bring benefit to all of us. So I really welcome the comment from Ms. Joni about the fairness. I would not comment on it, but would want to listen to Director General Kopman answer to that. But for us, it's very important that this year, even though we have been stalling with implementing the results of the elections, we nevertheless have shown that the country has resilience, that institutions are solid, and they can face all the unpredicted situations like the one that we were facing since February. And in the meantime, we were able to organize local elections, which went very well. We will have the second round in a couple of weeks. We don't expect any problems there as well. But I think this also shows that we have graduated, let's say, in reality, and only we need to put that on paper with EU. So, and the decision making and the voting rights, it's not up to us to maybe say that. It's up to the EU to decide, but I think there is something that we have heard when the new German government was formed, that there is some understanding that there will be particular reforms necessary within EU before there is new members. So we would like to see that reform happening quicker, if there is going to be a reform, so that it doesn't become an obstacle for, first of all, Albania and Montenegro, and then the rest of us to really move forward. In other comments, I would simply just want to address this populism, because I think it's very important. The extreme right or the extreme politics. European Union was born after Second World War as a response to what was basically a very extreme politics leading to massacres and killings in the continent. So whatever form of extreme politics we see in Europe or around Europe are anti-European. And I think we all need to work together, because European Union is the idea of working all together against that sort of threat, because it is a threat. And we know that in our region, because sectarianism and extreme policies have brought us into consequent wars in the 90s. And as Ambassador Ferit said, we all have experienced dictatorships and lived under one-party system. So that mentality is exactly that. So in that regard, I think more needs to be done, not only by EU and Commission, but also by candidate countries. Each one of us, we need to work more and fight more against this sort of trends, because they are dangerous to all of us, and as individual countries, but also to all of us as a community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director General. Over to you. So many questions I flagged for you, but I know you've made your own notes.
Yes, listen, we're a little bit out of time, so I'm going to be very brief. But first of all, I think on Georgia, this is a very important point. The EU is not giving up on the people of Georgia. I repeat, the EU is not giving up on the people of Georgia. It's very difficult, but we will do whatever is possible to keep the people of Georgia aligned with the EU, and that's an obligation I think we have. So I want to be very clear about that. On the growth plan. You know, I liked I was very good that Ferit referred to the experience of the class of 2004, and this is actually what we're looking at, and I think this is essential. So, effectively, real convergence in record time. We want to double the size of these economies in a decade. That is essentially what this is about, and this is not just an economic issue; it's a social issue, because the world looks different reforms are much easier, and people will be able to lead much more fulfilling lives if we achieve this together. And you know, the fact that we have done it before shows that it can be done again. And in reality here, the private sector, I'm making a jump to the question from our Swedish colleague, the private sector has an absolutely fundamental role to play. Now, there were two references to important investment conferences in Albania and Montenegro, and to a number of calls we have been issuing directly to companies. So I'm inviting you, get your Swedish companies to look at open calls to invest in our countries. What I find is really encouraging is that a lot of the projects on which we signed off MOUs in Albania and Montenegro are cutting edge. When I say cutting edge, I'm talking about AI factories. I'm talking about 5G advanced internet backbone. I'm talking about a battery plant in the Western Balkans that will be the largest on the continent, to allow intermittent distribution of renewable electricity in the systems. So we should stop thinking about the Western Balkans as a nice tourist destination only. It is a fantastic tourist destination, of course, we know that, but you know, this has the potential of transformative change in the economy and the societies. And that is exactly what happened. If we look at the case study of the Czech Republic and Poland, these countries became the workhorses of the European economy, and they transformed in the process. These countries gained dramatically, but the older member states also gained a lot. And you know, just to quote the IMF, not exactly a cheerleader for enlargement, right? But recent studies show that the EU gained 10 percentage points in terms of income per head as a result of the 2004 enlargement, the older member states. So this is very important. Enlargement is not zero sum. It's not something that is a challenge. We've talked too little about this, huh? The challenges for existing member states and their populations. And this is a huge opportunity where the private sector can really play a major role, where we are bringing fresh tools to the table. We want the timelines to be reduced. We know that a lot of the processes we've used in the past are too slow, so we're looking at cutting that by cutting that by 2/3 to get these projects off the ground quickly. And I think all of that is very important in the context of actually demonstrating that these growth plans are real. There is actually no country that doesn't have a growth plan coming to the journalist. There's one that still needs to be approved, BIH, so Bosnia was very slow in finalizing its growth plan. Kosovo has a growth plan, it's just that the country needs to ratify its financing agreement, but in principle it's already delivering on the growth plan. And therefore I think this new instrument really is delivering and has this transformational power.
Question on Kosovo and South Caucasus.
Yes. So on the South Caucasus, let me say this. This is not an enlargement story per se, but the ministerial to which Daniela referred to was, I think, the first where we had all of the countries of the South Caucasus, all EU member states, all the riparian states of the Black Sea and Central Asia together, talking about how we can link up and create this vector of connectivity all the way from the Far East to Turkey on the one hand and to the EU on the other hand. And this is exactly, if you will, a limited version of what the EU has been about in terms of bringing peace and prosperity through economic integration, of course in a much more limited form. The offer was very much welcomed by everyone, and it's a very good illustration also of how the EU can leverage its economic weight to achieve political objectives in terms of stability in its neighborhood. This is a huge work plank. We're at the beginning, but personally I'm very enthusiastic about it because we see that our partners are taking it up. And of course what happened in the South Caucasus, I mean the peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan is a complete game changer in this respect. And finally on Kosovo, let me be very, very clear. I want Kosovo to advance as rapidly as possible. We have done a lot of out-of-the-box thinking, so Agron, we should have a cup of coffee soon.
On this note, thank you so much, Director General. I know everybody's agenda is fully booked, so we should really sum up on this positive note. I hope we had a forward-looking conversation in the run-up to the Enlargement Forum. Many thanks for sharing your lunchtime with us. You can follow our research on CEPS and Reunir websites, and until next time. Thank you. Not at all.